So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up your solar inverter for first use. Now this is a solar inverter. I'll show you how to connect it to your battery and how to attach your solar panels to it also. So come along with me. So this is a solar inverter that we are going to be working with, and I have the manuals here. You can see that the power is coming from the panels on the roof and it will be going to the inverter, and from the inverter is going to be powering on the battery. This is the power that goes to the batteries, and then the batteries will be connected to this according to what is on the manual. So the power comes directly from the solar and it goes to the PV. So whatever you have PV rating on your inverter, that is where your solar power goes into. So in case your own inverter might not have built-in charge controller, and then so you can just connect the cables coming from the solar to the charge controller if you have a separate charge controller. But for this particular model of inverter I'm using, it has charge controller with it. So, and this is the power from your local power station. It will go directly to this part here. You can see it's written there also, so it will go directly to this part and it will be able to charge the battery also. And also we have the power output is coming from here also. So we have power in AC input and AC output. So whenever you see AC input and AC output written on your inverter, that is where you connect the power from your local power station to. So from there you have your output that will power your load in the house, a washing machine, TV, AC, depending on the devices that you intend to use the inverter for. Remember, this too is for the batteries. This is where you connect the batteries to, and this PV is for your solar panel. The power coming from the solar panel goes into the PV area, and so this is where whenever you see AC inputs and AC output rating, that is where you connect the power from your local power station into the inverter, and then you take your output also. From there you can take the output and connect to your changeover in the house so that you can power the devices at home. So now what I want to do is to connect my battery cable coming from my battery to the inverter. So remember that the positive will go to the positive and the negative will go to the negative. Polarity is very, very important in this setup. You have to be very careful. If possible, get your multimeter and then test for polarity. You can't afford to make any mistake here, because it can blow up the inverter and then mess up your battery also. So you have to be polarity conscious when working with this. In case you haven't done already, like and subscribe to the channel. I have great videos on how to fix a whole lot of office equipment. So the positive cable, which is red, will be going to the red terminal. Remember, you have to, just to be sure, you can still confirm with your multimeter. So just place a multimeter on the cable just to confirm that you are not messing up the polarity. Okay, that you're not switching the polarity the other way around, just to be on the safe side. You can't afford to use the wrong polarity here. You can mess up your battery. So because we'll be using heavy duty batteries, you have to tighten it. It has to be tight. If it's loose, you can get spark. It will start sparking, and then it will start sparking. which is not what we want. We don't want it to spark and then cause power fire accident. So that is why you have to make sure it is the nuts and the bolt is tightened properly to be able to sort this out. Okay, now I have our batteries here. These are the batteries that we are going to be using. We have 4 batteries here, and before I connect the cables to the batteries, I will check the batteries individually to be sure that each of them are okay. So what I'm looking for in the battery is the battery voltage. This battery is rated 12 volts. So what I want to look at now is to check the health of each of the battery. Each of the batteries should read around 12 volts to 12.5 volts. Some can even read 13 volts if it's fully charged. So that is to show that the battery is okay. But if it's reading below 12 volts, is it that the battery is bad or it is not properly charged? So you can just charge the battery properly. So by the time you connect your charge controller to it, you just charge the battery together, since it's not one battery that you're using. So you can afford to have one battery is down and the other battery is okay. So make sure that each of the batteries reading at least 12 volts and above, just to show that the battery is okay. So remember, I have to tighten this properly. So that is why I'm making use of my nut, my bolt, and the nut also. It has to be tightened properly. If it's loose, the cable can start sparking and then it will cause fire accident, which is what we don't want. So right now I'm going to connect all the batteries in series so that we'll come out with 48 volts. But because the individual battery rating, voltage rating of each of the battery is above 12 volts. Some is reading 12.8, some is reading 12.5, some is reading 13 volts, 13.5 volts, because the batteries are all okay and they are fully charged. So at the end of the day, I might come up with a voltage slightly higher than the 48 volts, because we have 4 batteries, and if you multiply 4 battery by 12 volts, we have 48 volts. But because each of the battery is fully charged, it will slightly go above 48 volts. So we can have 52 volts, 54 volts, depending. So right now you can see on my meter I have 58.8 volts. So let's see again. This is 58.8 volts on my multimeter, which is okay. So everything here is still fine, even if it's reading above 48 volts, because this particular inverter is rated 48 volt battery input. But if you have above 48 volts, like 50 something volt, 58 volt, just like I have now, due to the individual battery voltage rating, it is still fine. Your inverter will still handle it, since you did not exceed the voltage rating of the batteries and the inverter. So I'm still fine. So you can see from the voltage rating here is 48 volts, but the individual voltage of the battery is above 12 volts. So if it goes above 48 volts to 52 volts, some can read 53, 50 volts, 54 volts, 56, or even 58 volts, is still fine. As long as it's connected in series and properly, everything is still fine. So you don't have to worry about that. So the next thing we'll do now is to connect our solar panels, the cable coming from the solar panels to the inverter. But first I need to tighten the screws of the batteries. Remember that this has to be tightened properly. Get your plier and make sure the bolt is not loose. If it's loose, it can spark, and if it spark, you're at risk of fire accidents, which is what we don't want. So make sure it is tightened properly. So if you're getting a new one, normally they come with screws, bolts, nuts to help you tighten all these things. But if for one reason or the other you don't have those screws, bolts, and nuts, I would advise you to go and get screws, bolts, and nuts that will be able to match the battery. So I've connected it. I will still check the voltage reading on the inverter machine. So the voltage reading on the inverter machine is still the same volt, which means my connection is fine. Remember, whatever voltage you have on the battery, after connecting it in series, you must have the same voltage when after connecting it to your inverter machine. So after connecting it, I have to do another reading again, voltage reading, and everything is still fine. I got 58.8 volts after connecting the battery. But while I connected the batteries to the inverter, I still have my 58.8 volts, which means my connection is fine. The next thing I'm going to do right now is to connect my solar panel to this. So this is where the solar panel comes into. So I'm taking voltage reading from here.